Okay, so before this video begins, I do want to say it's quite long, and we'll cover the Kashtira deck, how to play it, and an overall summary of like what the deck does, and some versions so you can play with deck building. If you do enjoy this, I don't know, please subscribe and share it, I guess, because I'm fairly new to content creation, and this video style is fairly new to me, so thanks for just trying out. So, if you don't know what Kashtira does, it's a series of level 7 monsters that summon themselves to the field very easily. All Kashtiras enjoy being banished and banishing their own cards, and it's the main form of disruption in the deck to banish your opponent's cards face down. And then use Shangri-Era to lock up your opponent's zones so they can't summon or use spell trap effects. Usually, they can't summon. To summarize it, it's a weird fusion between Ojama, Macrocosmos, and kind of Zodiac with one of their monsters. The deck first released in Darkwing Blast, however, all of the good support basically came in Photon Hypernova. The stuff in Photon Hypernova is quite expensive alongside Fenrir, which is something to note if you're going to play the deck because it has a ton of secret rares. The bosses of the deck are Shangri-Era, which is a hard-to-destroy rank 7 that can lock zones the opponent can use, and can summon any Kashtira from the deck during the standby phase. Arise Heart, a rank 7 that can summon itself on top of any Kashtira the turn Shangri-Era activates its effect, and is both a Macrocosmos and a Trident in that it can banish one card on the field face down by detaching material. Our final boss is Diabolos the Mind Hacker, which is not officially a Kashtira, but it is a rank 7 psychic monster who has the ability to rip the opponent's extra deck apart by banishing cards face down, and is effectively part of the archetype as it does trigger Shangri-La and is incredibly easy to make within the combo. Our main deck monsters are Scareclaw and Parliament, who act as extenders, Fenrir, Unicorn, and Ogre, who all act as Cyber Dragon for our deck, that search our monsters, spells, and traps respectively, and all have an effect that triggers when the opponent activates a monster effect on a new chain. Fenrir can banish one card the opponent controls face down, Unicorn can banish one card from the opponent's extra deck face down, and Ogre can look at the top 5 cards of the deck and banish one of them face down. All of our spell traps are focused on summoning level 7s to the field and searching our monsters really easily, especially Birth, which acts as a way to normal summon level 7s without tributes, and Kashtira Theosis, which acts as a way to summon a Kashtira with different attribute that we control from the deck, allowing us to bring out our Cyber Dragons, which search even more cards. Overall, the deck is an efficient one-card combo deck that does not use a normal summon, which allows it to work with a variety of different decks. If you don't know what this is a Dueling Book, which is an incredibly useful site for deck building in general and deck testing, especially because you actually play the cards yourself. So it's very, very good in order to learn a deck. This is an example of kind of like a Kashtira deck and some options that you can play within it. This is a pure build that kind of focuses on the actual deck itself, so I'll go over it really quickly if you're interested in building the deck pure. 3 Fenrir. Fenrir is absolutely amazing in the deck. It's really good going second as a piece of interruption. It's also good going first as a piece of interruption, and it searches all of your monsters. It's incredibly important. Unicorn is your main play starter. You have to play 3 of this. 1 Unicorn is full combo, but it also has a decent effect banishing from extra, and searches your spell cards, which is probably the best type of card in your entire deck. 1 Ogre. Ogre is debatable whether to play or not. I like Ogre because it can search the one-off preparations, which is a pretty useful card in corner case scenarios. 3 Rise Heart. Rise Heart is a really good extender in the deck. It is necessary to search off of Fenrir later in the combo. It gets another 7 on field, but it also sets up a lot of really interesting, cool plays that your deck can do. And it is always good to draw because it is an extender, so Fenrir can search something else, like one of these, which is Scareclaw Kashtira and Tiarlament's Kashtira. This one is going to be more expensive than Scareclaw. If you're really looking to pay as little money for this deck as possible, Scareclaw is really good. It is cheap. It is just in common alongside like Ogre, so you could build something like Big Bang Control, which I will discuss in a second. Both these can banish a Kashtira from your hand or graveyard to summon themselves. They have fairly mediocre effects in our own deck. Scareclaw Kashtira can attack in defense position, which is it's decent. It can get over Baguska, which is good. Elements Kashtira mills cards. It's very good in a Kashtira Elements hybrid. But in our deck, we do not want to use the mill effects. We just want to summon it as a body. 3 of the Ascended of Thunder. This is a generic level 7 that you can summon straight to your field by paying 3,000 life points. If you do not like this card, there is Psybeast, which is a level 2 psychic that can banish a psychic from your deck to copy its level. You can use Psybeast in this case in case you want to use a normal summon spot. I'm not using a normal summon in this particular deck for a specific reason, which I'll get into in a second. Prime Planet Piathros. I cannot pronounce any of the Vsauce Starfrost field spells. This searches a Kashtira and can destroy one card you control. Not one you control, but one card your opponent controls. If Shangri-Era activates its effect. It is very good. It also gives a slight attack buff. This card is going to be quite expensive, and is not necessary, but it does increase your consistency. 1 terraforming to search it. 3 Kashtira Theosis is the English card name. We target a Kashtira and someone with a different attribute from our deck. This is our search off of Unicorn to get Fenrir out, and then Fenrir adds Rise Heart. I will show that in a combo in a second. You play 3 because it is an extender. You basically want to open as many extenders as possible. This deck is completely, nearly all extenders. 2 Birth. Birth allows you to normal summon level 7s without tributing, and is one of the reasons that I am not playing a normal summon in this deck. It also has another effect if your opponent activates a spell card afterwards, which is a triple DD Crow. 3 Prosperity, we want to get to our combo pieces as fast as possible. This also has cool synergy with one of the cards in our extra deck. Big Bang is a combo piece and a piece of interaction. Rise Heart will banish it, and we can add it back to hand. It is effectively a evenly matched, so long as we control a Kashtira Xyz monster, which is very good. 1 Preparations, it's probably the slowest card in our deck, but it is decent as it can bring back Kashtira monsters at quick effect speed, so that is the reason I'm playing it. 3 Ash, this can be any hand trap you like. I'm just going with Ash and Imperm. These can be any hand traps depending on the format, because they are the most generic. While they are not the best in this current format, I'm just going to have them in here to represent generic cards. 3 Dimension Shifter. We are fine with banishing cards, so we 100% like to activate this, and it kills the tier matchup, even though it's been massacred by the ban list. In the extra deck, we play 2 Arise Heart, our big boss. We can make it in corner cases thanks to our 2 Shangri-Era and 2 Diabolos the Mind Hacker. I'm just kind of playing 2 of each. You typically only make 1, but you can make 2 because your deck has okay recursion. Now onto some of the more questionable level 7s. Red Eye's Flare Metal can burn your opponent for 500 for every card effect that they resolve. Odd Eye's Rebellion Dragon and Odd Eye's Rebellion Dragon Overlord are 2 pretty interesting cards. You basically can put 2 level 7s into this, and then I believe its effect, or I believe this one has an effect. No, this one is the one with effect. Basically, you can put this one on top of this one, and it becomes a 3k beta that can attack 3 times. Big Eye is Snatch Steal in our deck, very good, and Zeus for when we need to go to the battle phase. Baron de Fleur is in here because it's a level 10. All of our cards are 7, so if we have a level 3 tuner, like one of our hand traps, we can use that as our normal summon per turn, and also end on a Baron. Do note, we Xyz lock ourselves a lot. The final 3 cards. 1 Infinitrack Megaclops, 1 Goliath, and 1 Donna Dagger for hire. Megaclops is a towers that we can make fairly consistently. It is able to be affected by Xyz monsters, so maybe it's not the greatest in this format, and I wouldn't recommend it too much. Goliath, first it looks like we can't make this. We actually can. The way we make Goliath is we don't at all. We use Prosperity to banish Goliath, and then we can use the effect of our Arise Heart to attach it to itself as a material. Then it will also mean that the Arise Heart cannot be destroyed by card effects while it's equipped to it as material. Donna Dagger for Hire is a generic Link 2. The reason we are playing a Donna Dagger for Hire out of all things is because we do not like bodies on field. So it is a Link 2 that can get itself off the field, allowing us to resummon our Kashtiras like Unicorn, Fenrir, and Ogre. Quickly onto the side deck, 3 Nibiru. It is a board wipe and really good against Kashtira, which is interesting in the mirror. Forbidden Lance is really good against board breakers, so I'd recommend playing this in the side deck in case you expect board breakers. Cross-Up Designator, I would really recommend to counter Nibiru. Triple Tactics Talents is also really good because it allows you to effectively kind of respond to the Nibiru. And this could also be Macrocosmos, but Dimensional Fissure and Macrocosmos are really good in this deck as forms of interruption. That is pretty much a sample deck list if you want something pretty pure to play. There is a lot of tweaking that could go on. I do not think this is the best way to play at all. I definitely think that this is just kind of more of a sampling of if you're interested in the deck in general. Okay, here is an effective shell of the deck. You have to play 3 Prime Planet and a Terraforming, or at least a way to search the Kashtiras. This is the simplest version that I know of. 3 Unicorn and possibly 3 Fenrir. You can get away with 1, but the more Fenrir, the better. This is kind of a downside of the deck, that it is very expensive, but Unicorn is kind of mandatory. 1 Theosis. You just need 1 to summon the Fenrir. 1 Rise Heart. You just need 1 for the combo. This is if you're going for a very bare bones shell. 1 Big Bang if you're going for the kind of full combo stuff. And if you want to play level 7 extenders, you can, or if your deck has a way to get level 7s, that's very good for Kashtira. You can also play Set Rotation if your deck plays a field spell, or if it plays the Adventurer package especially. Speaking of that, this is what we're playing in extra. You have to play at least, in my opinion, these 3. If you're playing the extender, you can play Mind Hacker as well. If you don't play any level 7 extenders with this, and just play this shell without anything, minus these 2, you can just go with the Kashtira and the Arise Heart and end on a few interruptions from there. You can obviously play the deck pure. You can also play the deck with Tear Element. I understand that Kid Kolos is banned. However, Kid Kolos doesn't, make the deck Tear Element. You can still play like a Tear Shell and then Kashtiras alongside them, using Tear Element's Kashtira specifically as a way to mill cards and as a Kashtira extender. You can play it in something like Trap Tricks or any kind of trap-heavy deck that doesn't mind banishing cards mostly and really enjoys kind of like a lot of combo stuff that just kind of interrupts the opponent because Kashtira doesn't use its normal summon. You can play it in something like Time Thief if you want something a bit more gimmicky as a rank 4 strategy that can, put rank 4s and summon Xyz monsters. If you really want something Xyz based, you can play Dino if you really, really want like a negate up, or if you want something like Giant Rex to have a lot of synergy with this. When I show this Kashtira package, you don't need to play Dimension Shifter. You can just use the Macrocosmos on a Rise Heart after you finish the combo. So you can use it with graveyard decks. The Adventure package is kind of fairly simple and rudimentary. Griffin is a 7, so it can be used as an extender in corner cases. As well, it puts up a negate. It's generally really, really good in this deck. If you play it with Set Rotation as well, because you're playing a different field spell, you can bounce the opponent's field spell back to your hand and effectively gain advantage, making Set Rotation an amazing searcher in this version of the deck. You can play it in Runic if you really, really like to banish cards from the top of the opponent's deck. A Rise Heart banishes 3, Ogre can banish 1. If you really want to banish the opponent's deck a lot faster and almost put up a board with Runic without using the EMZ, Kashtira is a pretty good pick. A lot of players in the OCG have been splashing Dinomorphia in, and I don't really blame them. It puts up effectively a skill drain very consistently which is very good, a one-sided skill drain on the opponent's board, which is very, very good for you as it makes your board quite difficult to counter without monster effects on field. You can play Alistair to set up a negate. Our deck hard loses to Nibiru, which is very crucial. So something like Alistair the Invoker, or anything that can just set up a negate beforehand is really good. You can play it in Dogmatica as just like a splash in. It puts up 2 interruptions off of 1 Ecclesia, or actually just of 1 Ecclesia. Maybe no, Ecclesia puts up 1 interruption. Sorry. Amazement is gimmicky. The next few are a little gimmicky, so you're going to have to listen to me here. Amazement Arlecchino is a 7. There's a new Amazement Arlecchino, which is fairly easy to summon. You can use it as an extender and a weird thing in trap decks. Is it the greatest thing in the world? No, but you can use it as a version of Amazement. You can just play an anti-graveyard deck in general with Necro Valley, Macrocosmos, the Kashtiras, basically stopping anything getting into the graveyard. That will give you a decent amount of wins if you want to play something a lot more control-based. You can play Mech Knight because Mech Knight have a few level 7s that can spam to the field. Additionally, it's very good going second, which alleviates one of your small problems of if some of your specific combo cards are interrupted and you don't have extension, you basically just lose. If you really like banishing cards, you can play it in Mutants. If you really enjoy, I don't know, Mutants and banishing, Mutant is pretty good in this case. The last one is meant to represent a good variety of decks. Any deck that can set up a negate and does not mind being Xyz-locked at one point does mesh decently well with Kashtira, as that 1 negate can stop the Nibiru or any important hand traps, and insulate your combo while also creating a much stronger board. Utopic Draco Future is also very important and is something that you can definitely make. So those are a few things that you can also mesh with Kashtira as a weird hybrid build if you're interested in that. Okay, this is a budget version of the deck, or at least like a budget supplementary engine. I'll go a bit more in depth. The 2 Kashtira main deck monsters, which are really, really cheap, are Scareclaw and Ogre. So, Unicorn, I still would say, is probably quite necessary to play. This is not an actual engine that you could probably play in a deck. Birth is fairly cheap. If you really want to play Kashtira this badly, probably what you would have to do is build something like a Big Bang Control. Which is not the greatest deck. Basically, you'd have to find a supplementary engine of level 7s that can easily summon themselves, and hopefully play under Shifter. Armed Dragon Thunders are one that can, but they do not play under Shifter that well. So if you want a deck that can spam 7s on the field quickly, that is something that is really budget. Then you could activate, instead of Dimension Shifter, something like Dimensional Fissure. The Kashtira boss, Shangri-Era, is also really cheap. A Rise Heart, Mind Hack is also really cheap. A Rise Heart is not going to be. It is going to be decently expensive. So if you really want something, just play Shangri-Era, Zone, Big Bang Control as a deck. It won't be the most consistent thing out there, but playing stuff like Scareclaw Kashtira, Kashtira Ogre, Big Bang, Preparations, and Birth probably will be able to get you a decent Kashtira core if you're willing to build around it. If you have enough money, maybe a Unicorn, if Rise Heart is cheap enough. I do not know the current price on Rise Heart, but you could also, pull off the basic Kashtira combo, which I'm going to show right now. This deck isn't the easiest to play on a budget, but if you are willing to put in the investment, you can build something like a bit of a control deck with it. Okay, here is the basic combo. You start by special summoning Unicorn from your hand. Then you can declare the effect of Unicorn in order to add a copy of Theosis or Papyrus, however you like to pronounce it, from deck to hand. From here you can activate Papyrus, in order to target the unicorn, to special summon Fenrir from your deck. Then you can activate the effect of the Fenrir in order to add a copy of a Rise Heart from deck to hand. Now, this right here, what I'm about to do, so the next thing to do is overlay your 2 level 7s to make a copy of Shangra Era. This is a key point in the combo. What I started with is the 1-card combo. However, any 2 level 7s and a Rise Heart in hand is full combo. So you can use any other way of kind of getting with this. From here, you can activate the effect of your Kashtira Rise Heart, which allows you to special summon it in defense. This card Xyz locks you, so does Theosis. However, if you're playing like a level 7 spam deck that doesn't use Theosis, remember Rise Heart is the part that Xyz locks you. From here, you can declare the effect of a Rise Heart, which allows you to banish any Kashtira card from your deck in order to change its level to 7. This also banishes the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. You can then activate the effect of your Big Bang, which will allow you to special summon one of the materials attached to it. It has to be a Kashtira material. If the 2 materials under the Shangra Era are not Kashtiras, I would instead recommend probably banishing something like a different Kashtira that you could get back with one of your resource recursion cards. In this specific case, what we want to do is we want to add back the Fenrir from deck. We want to add back the Fenrir to our hand, and then use the effect of the other effect of Big Bang to where we do want to indeed special summon it in defense. So this is a bit of an awkward point in the combo. So you might notice, without an extender, this is where it ends up. From here, we can do a pretty typical play, which is to overlay in defense on top of our Rise Heart. I like our Rise Heart. Now we have banished within this combo. We banished a series of cards face down from the Rise Heart under here. This will lock down one of our opponent's zones. What's important to note now is the zone control aspect of the deck. If we had drawn an extender, it can be absolutely anything. Let's say it is, I don't know, the worst extender in the deck, which is definitely Telemans Kashtira, probably, just because its effect isn't the greatest for us. We can use its effect in order to special summon it in defense position to our field by banishing any Kashtira card from our hand or grave. If you did Papyrus here, you can also use Papyrus effect, which is really important, to where you can add back to hand your copy of Big Bang. So, ignoring this Telemans Kashtira and this Big Bang in hand, a Rise Heart, Fenrir, and Shangra Era is your 1-card combo end board. And then if you are going to do the 2-card combo end board, it will look a lot more like this, which I'm about to do. You can then declare the effect of this, detach a material. This is banished due to the effect of our Rise Heart to rip apart a card from our opponent's extra deck and then banish the top 4 cards of their deck, which will also allow you to lock up 2 of your opponent's zones. This is really good as an end board, especially because you can use your Shangra Era to lock up even more zones. Furthermore, something very important to note with Shangra Era, which a lot of people are mentioning, your opponent's zones will stay locked up even if its effect is negated. Their zones are locked so long as it is on the field. That is what the effect reads. So just basically try to protect it by keeping it on field. But this as an end board, then you can set the Big Bang. this is kind of your end board, which is an evenly matched, a pop, and heavy zone restriction. Typically, you can go to even 4 or 5 zones restricted, which is really good. Only having access to maybe 2 or 3 monster zones, with one of them being the EMZ. So that is the main combo. There isn't really anything else you can do combo-wise that I'm not like too certain of. Apart from like this. You can try something more creative, but this is kind of generically the combo for this deck. This deck is mainly focused on doing this combo specifically, and making an end board that looks very similar to this, maybe with other interruptions depending on an engine you're hybriding it with, or just bonus hand traps and trap cards. So that is the combo. Kashtira overall, the strengths of the deck, it's an incredibly good combo deck. It's very resilient, it can play a lot of extenders, and as well, all of these searcher cards have interruption effects when your opponent uses a hand trap by tearing up their extra deck or even their field, or sometimes the top of their deck, which is really, really good. So the deck has a lot of resilience, and playing hand traps isn't the best way to beat it, as they will then just immediately interrupt you again in a different form. Additionally, the deck is extremely consistent. You can open full combo, 1-card combo, and 2-card combo nearly always when playing the deck, which makes it extremely resilient and really, really good against opponents playing lots of hand traps. Furthermore, the ability to play Dimension Shifter means it's really good against any graveyard deck, especially Tyr, even though it's been weakened, which makes it a really good meta contender. I would definitely recommend picking up the deck if you ever could. Even then, when I'm about to go into the disadvantages, it is still extremely, extremely strong. Due to its splash ability in other decks, you can't really be certain whether your opponent's just playing a pure version of the deck, or if they can splash Kashtira, whether they will be splashing Kashtira, considering how strong it is as an engine. Now onto the deck's clear weaknesses. Nibiru and Board Breakers absolutely destroy Kashtira. They just demolish it. Playing through Board Breakers is nigh impossible unless you open the right cards. Dark Ruler No More and Forbidden Droplet don't do too much to us, but a lot of like cards that you wouldn't expect to be that good against us are, like Evenly Matched is extremely good against us, as it just nukes our board with no follow-up. Even then, there are still a lot of like worries for the deck, such as its weakness to Nibiru. You have no way of countering Nibiru at all, just none. If you're not playing either Crossout Designator or a supplementary engine to make something that can counter Nibiru, Nibiru just demolishes your end board and basically wins your opponent the game. So if you're going to pick the deck up, definitely make sure to be wary of Nibiru. Additionally, if you're here because you want to learn how to counter the deck properly, Nibiru, clearly, Board Breakers, clearly, Lava Golem Sphere Mode, you also lose to those extremely often. They just nuke your board without you getting the chance to respond or interrupt. So maybe finding a way to play around Lava Golem is something to worry about, but honestly, with these in the metagame, I don't really think it's possible for Kashtira to win when your opponent is specifically side decking these cards. I definitely think some counterplay and development has to be found out, which I have not properly found out in this video, which I probably should have. But if you're looking for something to improve the deck on, find counters to Nibiru, and find counters to Kaijus, Lava Golem, and Sphere Mode. Onto some quickfire meta matchups. You absolutely demolish Tier Element now that there has been a ban list. You just full-on flatline them. There's nothing they can really do once you set up, and even going second, they will really struggle against you, especially if you open something like Shifter, you auto-win the game, or a Floodgate like Dimensional Shifter. One thing to look out for in the format is, even though Flunder doesn't have its barrier statue anymore, it can put up a pretty good board against you, and your interruptions, apart from zone locking, don't actually do that much against Flunder. which is something that is a little bit concerning. However, if you can fully lock up your zones, you do have it probably in the win against Flunder. Some other important things is the mirror match. The mirror match is against Kashtira itself. Unfortunately, it's either who goes first or who opens the correct board breaker. It's a very fragile end board deck. You do have recovery here and there. However, if you're going to play Kashtira, you do have to be aware that the mirror match isn't the greatest in the world. It's not like a Shizu tier at all. If you're playing this deck against itself, you will just struggle a lot. Some other smaller things in the metagame that I'm not fully sure of. Math Mech is like not in the format at all, so I won't really be mentioning it. Bystials don't touch us, so a lot of decks like Branded Bystial that play a high Bystial count don't do anything to us at all because we don't play light and dark monsters, apart from like one in our extra, which when we don't ever get into the graveyard anyway. We do decently against all these decks, except maybe the Mirror and Flunder. But overall, Kashtira is a very good meta pick. It does have a lot of decent matchups in the new metagame, but there are just a few things to worry about here and there. We basically beat any graveyard deck extremely well, but we struggle against any deck that doesn't use the graveyard to its full potential and can work with limited zones. Now, onto some overall evaluations and kind of an overview. And to rate the strength of the M board, 4 out of 5. Very, very strong. Specifically, zone locking is really, really good when it's done consistently, and the ability to just straight up pop something and Diabolos banishes a lot of the deck is really, really good. For our OTK potential is a 3. We can usually get to an OTK, but if we're interrupted enough, usually we just can't get there. So it's usually not 50-50 chance, but sometimes if we're interrupted in the right place, we won't be able to kill. For recovery, 3. We recover a decent amount. Overall, we can recover a lot. We have a lot of extenders and one-card combos in the deck, so even if our board is fully broken, we can recover, but it's a case of having those alongside our original combo starters, which is the difficult part. Resistant to hand traps would be high, but board breakers lower us down to a 2. This format, I predict people are going to be playing a lot of Lava Golem, Sphere Mode, Dark Ruler No More, a lot of stuff that can just break the board right open. And so, because of that, I can't rate Kashtira anything higher than 2 due to its kind of overall weakness. Then, onto consistency, 5 out of 5. Amazing. Kashtira is so consistent. It is unbelievable how consistent this deck is at doing what it does. For a level 7 deck to be consistent, it is wild, to say the least. To give my evaluation, I think Kashtira will definitely be in Tier 1. However, I do think it'll be kind of in the more middle of Tier 1. There is definitely something that, if it is built in the right way, could overtake Kashtira and be in the high Tier 1. I don't think anything will be Tier 0 this format. I don't think Tier is strong enough to be Tier 0. I definitely think a Kashtira build can be done that can do the, Draco Sack, make 2 level 3 tokens, link them off for Cherubini, and then send King of the Swamp in order to make the Tier boss. But overall, I think a middling Tier 1 is where Kashtira is, which is really solid, considering that the current format does not know the state that it's in. However, if you do want to play Kashtira, you do always have to note the expensive high cost of playing it. It is not a cheap deck. If you want something cheap to play, try building a tier variant, even though it has been hit. But if you are willing to make the commitment, I am definitely happy in recommending Kashtira as a very fun play combo deck that is about to be a big meta contender in the current metagame. Thanks for watching. This is just like a post-credits thing that I'm just putting in, but I genuinely enjoyed making this. It was quite fun. It's a lot different to my regular content. If you made it to this to the end of this, I don't know, comment down below that you did. Thank you. Something to comment though. I'm considering making more of these. If you want like a suggestion of what decks should I try doing this for again, please put them down below because it's quite fun to make. And if this is helpful, then leave a like. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.